everyone, and welcome to Cup of Corrie. I hope you all are having a good start to your week so far. I've got my coffee. I normally am not a Starbucks girl, but sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures. Usually I'm more of a local coffee shop girl because it just tastes better. But on today's episode, I'm going to talk about something just really near and dear to my heart, something that I've walked through in my early 20s. And it's something that I think a lot of people have walked through in their life, but there's so much shame around it that I feel like a lot of times people feel very alone in this. And so I just want to share about it and be open and honest, because I think the more we talk about it, the less of that we experience. And I struggled with anxiety and debilitating panic attacks about 15 or so years ago, or even a little more actually. And I had always as a kid kind of been a worrier and someone who just, worried about things. And my mom would always, calm me down and give me Bible verses to memorize on worry and all of that. And I had grown up, got married, and newly into my marriage, I started having panic attacks. And some of you are like, what is that? Other people are like, yeah, I know what you mean. So if you've had one, you know what I mean. But if you haven't, it's basically where you just start breathing really shallow and almost hyperventilating, and it kind of makes you dizzy and you feel like you're going to pass out and you just want to run. That's the best way I can describe it. And so at first I'm like, what is this? And then I feel like they kind of progressively got more and more and more, and I figured out what it was. And it got so bad for me. I was a teacher at the time, teaching full time. It got so bad for me that I felt like I couldn't even drive to my job. My husband would have to take me on his lunch break. He would take me early in the morning, and then he would take a late lunch break and pick me up because I couldn't drive. And I was having them throughout the whole day while I was trying to teach. I was having them so badly that it got to the point where I really didn't feel like I could even leave my house, even driving a mile to a coffee shop or a grocery store. And I felt like I'm going to pass out. I don't even know how I'm going to make it. It was so debilitating to the point where I felt like I don't even want to live anymore. If I'm going to experience these, I don't even want to live because these are so horrible. I almost felt like a foreigner inside of my own body and just wanting to run. And I just remember praying and praying and praying and crying out to the Lord and being like, I don't want these, God. I'm trusting you. And I would have worship playing, and I would read scripture. I had an entire journal of verses on fear and worry and trusting God and all of those things. And it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And when I say even at the church I was at the time, people were very just shaming, and they were like, oh, well, you need to trust God more. And I'm like, well, I am, and then to some of my friends, they didn't understand why I couldn't hang out with them. And they're like, well, do you not want to hang out? I'm like, of course I want to, but it was just so hard to leave my house. And then my husband's like, what do you mean we can't go out to eat, or we can't go to the store, whatever. And I'm like, I want to, but, they were so debilitating that leaving my house was really hard. And so finally, I remember one night, it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but the best. I said to my husband, I need help. I need help. I can't keep suffering with this anymore. I can't go on like this anymore. I'm not even really living my life. It's horrible. And I said, and we had just kind of been praying together, and all of a sudden found this program that was from a lady who had gone through it, because I wanted somebody who had been through it before. And I remember when I started the program thinking, wow, these people went from where I'm at to living totally free. And I'm like, that's not possible. I don't even know how that's possible. I'm debilitated. And I just remember slowly through going through that program, the Lord began to heal me. And I remember the first time, as crazy as this sounds to other people, but even just driving 2 miles by myself without having it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, or being able to walk around the mall by myself and not having the panic. It was incredible and so freeing. And I remember as I, just continued to pray, the Lord was so clear to me that there were some physical things in my body that I needed to shift. And he was like, I want you to change what you're eating. I want you to exercise. I want you to just different things. And I remember being like, okay, and I shifted those alongside of, doing this program. And I was completely set free. And it was a process. Let me hear me say that. Sorry. It was a process. And I just, remember like being like, wow, like I never thought this day would come. And I remember just telling the Lord, like, you've healed me from this. And I want to be encouraging to anyone and everyone who's going through this. And I remember during the time that I was suffering with it, the Lord called me into doing music. And I was like, I can't get on a stage and sing. And he's like, that's what I'm calling you to. I'm like, And I remember every time I would, like while I was going through it, I would have so much peace while I was on that stage. And then once I was healed from it, I wrote a lot of songs about it. And every time I would be at a concert, I would share my story. And I would think, oh man, someone's going to think I'm crazy. And I would always get people coming up to me after going, oh, that's me. Like, I'm walking through that and I didn't realize this is what it is. Or, I'm so alone. Like, thank you for sharing that. And I realized, like, there's always a purpose in our pain. There's always a purpose. It's not wasted. And I was like, God, people have asked me, like, would you have wanted to go through that again? I'm like, I'm glad I went through it, as hard as it was, because it's made me a different person, and it's made me more empathetic, and it's made me just look at things so differently when other people are going through it. And as I got, further into my marriage, we're about to celebrate 18 years, which is crazy. But my oldest daughter, who's 6.5, like before I conceived her, I started struggling with them a little bit again. And I was like, no, like I've done all the work. Like I did all the things of retraining my brain and trusting the Lord and all this stuff. And as I was going through it, I remember the Lord just speaking to me like, no, this is a physiological thing. And I had some testing done and realized I had like some gene mutations that causes that kind of thing, that I had too much adrenaline in my body, just different things were very off in my body. And as I then worked with some holistic doctors to like change some of that, it lifted. And I haven't struggled with it since then. And I just remember just realizing then, like, I think with mental health and anxiety and depression and those things, it's very quickly written off like, oh, you need to trust God, or, oh, you need to do this. And even in the big church, global church, you hear so often like, trust God, perfect love casts out fear, do this. Of course, perfect love casts out fear. But there are things in our body, because we do live in a broken and fallen world, that can be out of alignment. And for me, a lot of it was a physiological stuff that was very out of alignment. And when I got all of that balanced, like my hormones and our gut makes most of our serotonin, and my gut was kind of messed up. So once I got all of that in line, it was like, it was done. And so I think, the biggest thing I've learned as I've walked through this is that it's not a one size fits all. It's not always just like, oh, I'm worrying about tomorrow, like the Bible talks about, I need to trust God. Sometimes we have things that are very off in our body that are causing our body to do the fight and flight mode and all of that. And I think, as humans, as believers, we need to just realize that it's not a one size fits all, and that it's not necessarily just that somebody is not trusting God. And I think that, I've just learned so much, because as soon as I changed a lot of the physiological things, all of that was gone. And I haven't struggled with it since then. And it's amazing to be on the other side, to be completely free, and to just, see that God has totally healed me, and that he can use the food that he created. He can use holistic doctors, and it doesn't always have to be one or the other, And I just wanted to share my story and encourage even one person today. If you're battling through something like this, that you're not alone. You're not alone. There are other people that have walked through this, and that there is a God who loves you so much that he wants to help you. He wants to walk with you. He wants to help you through what you're walking through. And I just wanted to encourage you tonight to keep going, that there's a purpose, that God has a purpose for your life, that he wants for you to fulfill. You are not here on accident. You were designed by your Creator for a purpose, and you are beautifully and wonderfully made. And I just wanted to encourage anyone who is walking through this, that it's okay, and it's okay to be in the process. It's okay to ask the hard questions. It's okay to be like, what is this? But just hear me say that God cares, and he sees you. And I am living proof of somebody who couldn't even leave their house, who now functions totally normally. And I I just wanted to encourage you tonight. And I think it's something that I'm just very passionate about after I've walked through it. And I think that just too many people walk through it alone. And I just want to be an encouragement that you don't have to, and there doesn't have to be shame behind it. And it's not always just, oh, you're worrying. There are so many other facets. Even with depression, I struggled with that a little bit during it. And a lot of that can even be from hormonal things and your gut being off and different gene mutations and things. And I truly believe that God can heal anything, obviously, but that sometimes it's a process, and sometimes, it's something that just takes time. And so I just wanted to encourage you today that you're not alone, and that it's okay to talk about it, and, to find and to get help. And that was the best thing I ever did, was to just be like, I need help. And it just really broke me of feeling like I always had to have it all together. That was something I feel like I struggled with a lot throughout my life. And this broke me of that, and gave me a very different kind of authenticity because I've walked through it. And so I just wanted to encourage you today. And if you have questions or you want me to elaborate on something more in another video, I am so happy to do that. Please leave a comment below and let me know. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you will get notifications when I post a new video. But I am praying for all of you this week, and I hope that all of you have a great rest of your week.